Creative work is 24/7. You know, literally, you wake up in the middle of the night sometimes with, oh, I hadn't thought of doing it that way. This book, I hope, encourages people to consider going into creative work. And I'm not suggesting that half the nation suddenly become car designers, but creative work like architecture, furniture, other modes of transport, or straight product design, because it is so satisfying. It is not 9 till 5. You can actually fulfill your life. If you do last long enough, you can look back on some of it and say, that was good, I enjoyed that. The second part of the book is that it's an inside story. I'm lucky to work with very interesting people, not just Lyons Chapman, Martin Lilly at TVR and so on. And what goes on while we're trying to create these products is obviously secret from the public. And this is releasing a little bit of the secret, I suppose. I started as an apprentice with Jaguar cars in Coventry. 5 years of learning the ropes of production line, experimental shop, drawing office. I then stayed with Jaguar another 5 years, working in their new styling department. From there, I went to Lotus, and Colin Chapman was embarking on a four-seater Lotus, the first four-seater Lotus, and I worked on the coupe variant, and I also spent time working with Ital Design on the new Esprit. I then moved for a short period into Colin Chapman's boat company, which was very, very exciting. From there, I became freelance and met up with TVR up in Blackpool, and we designed the TVR Tasman. Then it was back to Lotus with a big challenge, a project jointly with the help of Toyota to produce a new sports car that was affordable and very competitive. Unfortunately, it went through very difficult times at Lotus, and in the end, that design was scrapped. So I went to the United States and I worked with a special vehicle division of General Motors in Detroit. For family reasons, as much as anything, I had to make a big decision. Do I stay in the States long term, or do I come back to England? We decided to come back to, we wouldn't have guessed it, but to Lotus, covering a variety of roles, but rather less design and rather more management. Late 90s, I'd had enough, frankly. So in the end, I decided to become a consultant in the motor industry. And I enjoyed a lot of very interesting and well-known clients before getting involved with companies in China. And that is where I retired. When I started, things were done basically as the Victorians had done engineering. Remember, back in the 60s, there were no computers. You drew with pencils. All your calculations were longhand, and it meant that accuracy was always in the eye of the beholder that day. Computers came in and started to be able to fix points that were the same for everybody on the project. So the centre of the rear axle was the same for the guy doing the headlamp and the guy doing the carburettor. And that produced a revolution in quality and reliability of the motor car. I gotta say the Lotus M90, which of course is quite interesting from the point of view of the general public because they haven't seen it, as it never ever went into production. Although I'm happy to say the one and only prototype still exists in a very fine condition. But I'm proud of all of them. I was proud of the wheel nave plate that I designed at Jaguar for the XJ6, which I think was the first thing I designed that got to production totally unchanged by anybody else. When you look at it and you think, that's mine, it's very, very satisfying. Incredibly lucky working with Colin Chapman, and to a slightly lesser extent, because I didn't see as much of him, Sir William Lyons of Jaguar. These people were absolutely proven in the motor industry. They had built up their own companies around being ahead of the game in their respective ways. So when they spoke to you, you listened. But it was a tremendous privilege, very, very lucky to have been involved directly with people of that stature. I've got to be rather careful because I'm not in car design. I haven't been in car design, only worked in the industry for 7, 8 years now. But the big thing is this spread of computerization. I've got a lot of personal views about it. The bottom line is it produces a superb job. Very, very fine shut lines, everything fits together just beautifully. But it's a very ponderous system. Lots of time spent loading things into computers, which is why at the concept phase, certainly while I was still working, many companies still work with a pencil. You didn't need that millimetric accuracy. You needed to get the basic idea out. And then if you thought that was looking good, you could go into the finer detail. The one man and his pencil designing a car are long gone. You now need teams of people to go through all the specialist parts. There are so many computer-aided programs, whether it's suspension or how to fill a fuel tank and that sort of thing, that a design team rapidly becomes very large. I shudder to think at how on earth everybody keeps the communication open in the way that when it was half a dozen of us, we could chat over lunch. Saved a meeting or two.